The soldiers that you have seen are the last ones to leave the Gaza Strip.
Yes, guys, you have heard correctly. Till 2005, Jewish people did live in Gaza, and the community was growing. Not only the community was growing, but the land was used to produce so much fruit and vegetables that it was a true miracle. The Jewish people not only produced food to sustain themselves, but they also exported fruits, vegetables, flowers all over the world. It was a true pride of Gaza. This Jewish community that was producing so much of this land. So you not only had farms, farmers, greenhouses, but also factories where the food was packed, was distributed, and sent all over the world. It was a booming economy in Gaza. I mean, look at this. Those are pictures of flowers that were grown in Gaza, and they were exported to Europe. There were also animal farms in Gaza, and the Jewish community was proud of this heritage because when they came to Gaza, it was a barren land. There was nothing, and yet, in just a short time, this land could be transformed into a life-giving source. But then a tragedy happened. Ariel Sharon, a former Prime Minister of Israel, under the growing pressure from the West, made a controversial decision to withdraw all Jewish people from Gaza. As you can imagine, this was a dramatic event for the communities living in Gaza, who lived there and saw their future in Gaza. Many people, actually most of the people, did not want to leave, and they had to be removed by force. A very tragic time in Israel, very controversial time in Israel, that today is often forgotten. And what I want to emphasize here is that when Israel left, when the Jewish people left Gaza, they left behind a whole infrastructure that was already set up in Gaza. You had homes, you had factories, you had farmlands, equipment. Everything was left. A lot of money was invested in it, but yet Israel made this decision to leave Gaza. Now listen to the words of this Israeli soldier.
The mission is completed. An era has ended. From this moment on, the responsibility for all that takes place in Gaza Strip lays on the Palestinians. The responsibility for the security of the Israelis is all ours.
These were almost prophetic words because in 2006 the elections were organized in Gaza where the people of Gaza have chosen that an organization called Hamas should rule them. Hamas not only won the elections, but started to eliminate its biggest rival, political rival, the Fatah party. Now, just to give you a perspective, from 2007 to 2010, the international community gave $7.7 billion for Gaza. Then in 2014, during the Cairo conference, another $5.4 billion were pledged to develop Gaza. Then again, from 2014 to 2020, Gaza received from the international community $4.5 billion. And there are many other organizations and nations that are giving support to Gaza. But if we just take those numbers, we come up to a staggering number of $17.6 billion. Now, this is almost the amount of the GDP of Iceland and more than the GDP of Jamaica. And those are whole countries. Remember, Gaza is a very small territory. Now, despite all this money that went to Gaza, Gaza still looks like a slum. And this may surprise you. But why is that? Why Gaza still looks like a slum after pumping in so much money to this very, very small territory? Well, first of all, because Hamas is extremely corrupt. So they're not just an evil organization, but they're also extremely corrupt. I mean, look at those figures. Those are the leaders of Hamas, and they are worth billions of dollars. They're living in Qatar, living a very nice life, enjoying the good food, enjoying the villas, everything. All the money that the world sends to Hamas, to Gaza, ends up in their pockets. But there's also another reason that I must mention here. Remember when I told you that when the Jewish people left Gaza, they left behind a whole infrastructure that was left there and was ready to use. Many farmlands, many factories, greenhouses, everything was left in the place where the Jewish people lived. But do you know what the Palestinians did? They came and saw all of this. They saw how the Jewish people lived. And instead of using it, out of envy, they started destroying everything. They started burning greenhouses, destroying farmlands, killing the animals even. Everything was destroyed out of this hate towards the Jewish people. And I will come back to this point because it's very important to understand this also from the biblical perspective. But I want to mention one more thing. Hamas not only did not use the money that was given to them by the international community, but also destroyed what was built by the international community to improve the lives of regular Palestinians. So what they did in Gaza is actually astonishing. They started digging up the pipes that were used for sewage and water supply in Gaza and using those pipes to turn them into missiles that would later be used against Israel. This is the way that the money that the international community sends is used. They just destroy everything. They are not interested in helping themselves. All they are concentrated on is destroying Israel. They would rather destroy Israel than live a good life. So now let's go back in time to the events of the Bible. And the territory that today we understand as Gaza used to be settled by the people called Philistines. Now, if you're interested in the origins of the Philistines, I have an episode on this topic. I will leave a link to this video in the description of this video. I just want to mention one thing, that the ancient Philistines have nothing to do with the modern Palestinians. There are, however, things that the modern Palestinians and the ancient Philistines have in common. One thing is that they live on the same territory. So the Philistines used to live where the Palestinians of Gaza live today. And the second thing that they have in common is that what we learn in the Bible, and that's a behavior, a certain type of behavior that we see towards the Jewish people. Now, in the 26th chapter of the first book of Moses, we read a very interesting story of Isaac. We read that Isaac, because of the famine, goes to Gerar to live in the land of the king of the Philistines. Now, we also learn that when Isaac goes to live there, God is blessing him tremendously, giving him all the blessings so that he is very prosperous. His flock is great, and everything he touches is basically a blessing. Now, we also get a very interesting detail in this story when Isaac is living in Gerar. We read that the Philistines have stopped the wells that were dug by his father Abraham, and they covered them with dirt. Now, why would they do that? This is very illogical. The wells are a great blessing, a source of water that is very important in the Middle East. The answer to those questions can be found in the previous verses, where we read that God has blessed him and he became very, very rich, and he continued to grow and become very wealthy. And he had many flocks, many herds. He had everything he could wish for. And then, in verse 14, we read that the Philistines envied him. Envy was the reason why the Philistines destroyed the wells of Abraham. And what happens next is interesting. Isaac starts digging the wells again, the wells that his father Abraham dug before him. And when he does that, the Philistines come and say to him, "This is our water, go away." And we must remember that they are the ones that destroyed the wells earlier. And now, again, envy is preventing them from receiving this blessing. So Isaac leaves and finds another well that he restores. But the situation repeats. The Philistines come and say to him, "Get out of here." So Isaac once again leaves this territory and finds another place. This time, when he restores the well, he is not bothered by anybody. Today, if we would go back to the place where the Jewish people lived, where there was a tremendous blessing to the region, you would not find anything. Everything would be destroyed. Why? Because of the sin, envy. Nothing has changed. Envy can blind us and prevent us from receiving a huge blessing. When Hamas attacked all those kibbutzim next to the Gaza Strip, all they left behind was destruction and death. They did not leave any life. They were destroying. As the Philistines were destroying the waters giving life, now the Palestinians were destroying lives by killing them. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you were able to learn something new and that the information was helpful. I just want to say that I'm very grateful to all the comments that you guys left on my last video. I saw a lot of support. In the video I said that Jewish people feel alone, and all of you were just leaving comments that we are not alone, that there is huge support from Christians, Bible-believing Christians, and it's really, really meaningful to me. I mean, it's wonderful to hear, and of course, I understand that God is with Israel. I understand that God's promises are everlasting, and they are something that we can hold on to. But sometimes, when you live life, when you see all the tragedy around you, when you see the hypocrisy, when you see all the negative things, you forget that. So forgive me for that. I am, of course, remembering about God, and this is the strongest weapon that Israel has. Thank you for your prayers. This is also something extremely valued by us. We are very thankful for all your prayers, for the soldiers, for Jewish people in Israel. This is amazing. Thank you also to all of you who support the channel. If you would like to support the channel, if you think that the information I provide is helpful, you can do that through Patreon. I will leave a link to my Patreon page in the description. You can also use PayPal if you wish. So thank you for everything. Have a good day. Shalom.